1985 IHRA Pro Funny Car World Champion has already been crowned. Dale Boldy won 5 times this year to earn the title. Today, his major competition will come from last year's champion Mark Oswald and Kenny Bernstein, as ESPN presents the Strohs Nationals from Darlington International Dragway in South Carolina. ESPN, now in its 7th season as your #1 auto racing network, presents Auto Racing 85. Welcome you to Darlington, South Carolina, and a beautiful day for IHRA drag racing. Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Bob Jenkins, along with Larry Newber. Well, the 1985 IHRA Pro Funny Car World Champion has been decided. Dale Boldy has won 5 out of 9 races so far this year.
5 of 9, and 4 of those came in a row. Boldy was that strong at certain points of this season. Now, you might think because the championship is already locked up that, well, maybe he's not taking this meet all that seriously. Well, when he got beat in one of the prelims at the last meet, he said, oh, that's okay. I want to go out in style. I am pointing toward Darlington. Here's one of the toughest guys off the line in all of drag racing.
2 of his arch rivals are here to do battle with him this afternoon, namely Kenny Bernstein and Mark Oswald.
Kenny Bernstein, one of the biggest winners in all of drag racing in 1985. Onboard computer, trick aerodynamics, a businessman, and it seems like that when he and his crew put their minds to something, they can accomplish almost anything. And then there's Mark Oswald. Now, here is a former world champion in drag racing. He's won 2 of the last 3 IHRA meets, and he comes into this race with somewhat of a handicap. He crashed in the last race, and he has to use a year-old car, but he still says, I can still be strong.
In the Pro Stock Division, Bruce Allen, by qualifying for today's finals, is the world champion in Pro Stock for IHRA.
Well, his biggest adversary, Bob Glidden, will not be in the finals today, but Ricky Smith and Roy Hill will be, and both of these gentlemen have shown the ability to be as fast as any pro stocker in the business, so keep your eyes on both of them.
Let's call in the 3rd member of our broadcast crew this afternoon. He'll be working the pit area. Here is Marty Reed.
Well, guys, Dale Boldy may have sewed up his world championship a little bit sooner, but Bruce Allen has taken a little bit of the limelight off of today's race because he clinched the world championship by qualifying #1 for this event. Ricky Smith is over 1,100 points behind and mathematically cannot catch up. But that does not take the excitement away from this, because there is still $20,000 at stake to the winner. And, of course, you always want to finish the 1985 season with a win.
All right, thank you, Marty. The Strohs Nationals are being brought to you by Strohs and Stroh Light, fire brewed for smoother taste. And by Drag Review, all you need to know about drag racing. As Mark Oswald gets ready to go, we'll take this break and be right back for more of the Stroh Nationals. For the Strohs Nationals, and we get set now for the quarterfinals in the funny car division. Our first 2 competitors will be Mark Oswald and Dale Boldy, the 1984 against the 1985 IHRA champion. Leonard Hughes, the crew chief on the Oswald car, we asked him about Oswald.
We've won a lot of races, but really he doesn't have a lot of experience. He's only been doing this for like 2 or 3 years, and that's not a lot of experience because, like at the crash last week at Bristol, he had never had that before. Things like that. He didn't know exactly what was going on, what would happen, what to do. As far as driving the car, I don't know of any better.
Leonard Hughes talking about his driver, Mark Oswald. His competitor here in this first round will be Dale Boldy, who has already wrapped up the championship for this year. We asked Bill Schultz, his crew chief, about any weaknesses that Boldy has.
Well, he really doesn't have any weaknesses. He's probably one of the highest rated drivers. I rate drivers on a 3-level basis. First, can he leave on time such that you can win races? Can he report back and tell you what's happening in the car? And thirdly, can he save the car if it gets a little out of shape? And he's near the top in each of those categories, so he's one of the top 3 drivers in the sport, no doubt about it.
So, Larry, we begin the quarterfinals here in funny cars with a classic matchup.
Really do, Bob. The last 3 world championships represented here. Poldy, of course, in that bright Miller High Life yellow car, had just a spectacular season this year in IHRA. Kind of a quiet, humble, but very confident young man.
So it's Dale Poldy in the far lane in the Miller Warrior against Mark Oswald from near Cincinnati, Ohio, in the near lane in the Candies and Hughes Old Milwaukee Pontiac.
Poldy, the 5th fastest qualifier for this event. Oswald, the 4th. Poldy, if you look at the record books, the man to beat in IHRA.
And Oswald's in trouble. Big puff of smoke from Mark Oswald, and it's going to be an easy win for Dale Poldy. He moves into the semis. The time, 5.743. That's a speed of 247.93 miles an hour, and tough luck for Mark Oswald just as the light went on. Next matchup, John Lombardo against Paul Smith. We asked Lombardo about his Old Milwaukee sponsorship.
Well, the Old Milwaukee sponsorship appears to be over for the funny car this year, but Raymond's got two or three other sponsorship programs going on, so it looks like the team will be back in full force next year again, and I'm looking forward to driving again next year for him.
That's John Lombardo. It's a very warm day here in Darlington, and perhaps by that shot you can see the heat that's being generated by these cars and by the atmosphere.
Of course, all true drag racers understand the heat can really have an effect on the performance of these machines. You really have to be prepared for it.
It's John Lombardo in the near lane against Paul Smith from Boynton Beach, Florida, in the far lane.
This is only his 8th career final round appearance, but he does have 1 win. He's a guy who's been around for a long time. As a matter of fact, in the late 70s and early 80s, he was making a habit of finishing up in the top 4 in points. But to see him here in the final 8 is somewhat of a surprise. He comes in, I would guess, as an underdog against somebody like Lombardo.
So it'll be a Dodge Daytona driven by Paul Smith against the Ford Mustang Old Milwaukee car driven by John Lombardo from Sherman Oaks, California. We're still in our quarter-final round here in Darlington.
Well, Smith has been cranking off some solid 250-mile-per-hour runs so far in the meet. Not really enough to promote the top. Let's see how he does here.
And again, a lot of smoke from the near lane. Lombardo has a problem with his car, and Paul Smith comes out on top with a run of 250 miles an hour.
So the Floridian driving the, don't you think it's appropriate, Daytona, who qualified 7th fastest here. He struggled for so many years, finds himself in a nice position of moving up 1 more rung in the ladder. There you see some apparent tire smoke coming from underneath Lombardo's car. That might have made the difference, Bob.
So Paul Smith, who wins here, this is the far lane. That's the 2nd consecutive race we've seen the winner from the far lane. We'll keep an eye on that to see if it continues throughout the afternoon. Paul Smith, the winner in quarterfinals. Well, this is our final event of 1985, and so we salute some of the major IHRA teams of the year. We'll be right back with more from Darlington. Auto Racing 85 today at Darlington International Dragway for the Strohs Nationals, and in the quarterfinals of the funny car division, set to go now, Kenny Bernstein against Ron Correnti. And of course, Kenny Bernstein was the winner of the most recent IHRA show that we did here on ESPN. That was the Summer Nationals near Cincinnati, Ohio.
Bob Bernstein in the red and white Budweiser car. I'll tell you, he's really had a tremendous season. He's the only driver in NHRA who has been in more than 2 final rounds.
We asked Kenny if he was pleased with his performance this year.
Well, it's been a really good year for the Budweiser King overall when you look at the whole season, and we're really excited about it to finish it up in good style and go out and try to win the Strohs money here in Darlington. And hats off to my crew, Dale Armstrong and the whole guys for doing a super job.
Kenny Bernstein and Ron Correnti. Bernstein will be in the near lane for this run.
Bob, I think they are lifting up the bodywork on Correnti's car. Correnti may be in deep problems here. It's very late in the going here to be having that bodywork lifted up.
Kenny does a second burnout, but the problems are apparent on the Ron Correnti car, and he may not be able to go. His crew indicates that things are not looking real well for him, and Kenny may have an easy run here and move into the semifinals. They are pushing the Correnti car back to the pit area, And so Kenny Bernstein will take this run down the quarter mile, but will have a more or less a bye into the semifinals.
A big disappointment for Granny. The original Captain Crazy. This is not the normal maroon colors we are used to seeing on the car. They've had so many crashes this year. Ron and the crew said we just haven't had time to do things like we normally do. But Bernstein, as you mentioned, Bob, lining up, he'll want to go well here because lane choice is truly important here at this drag strip.
Well, remember, we have already seen winners from the far lanes in the first two runs. Now Kenny going down the near lane here. Let's see what the ET and speed. 250.69, 5.614. A good run for Kenny.
Yeah, and with the runs that we've already seen by Poldy and Smith, that may hold Bernstein in pretty good stead for his next round here, moving up the ladder.
Jim Head from Columbus, Ohio is set to go. They start the engine on that car. His opponent in this quarterfinal round will be Billy Meyer from Waco, Texas.
Well, Head, whom you're looking at right there, he came into this meet with a great deal of confidence, believe it or not. Now, they had some clutch problems the last meet at Norwalk, but he says that we have solved those. They've even talked about stepping back. That means maybe not trying to burn off so quickly at the starting line when the green light flashes. So Jim Head, world's fastest independent, may well be a factor here in this meet yet this weekend.
Jim Head from Columbus, Ohio is 36 years of age, and there is the car that will be driven by Billy Meyer, the 711 Chief Auto Parts Ford Mustang.
Meyer getting ready, and look at the dramatic shot you get of those rear tires standing up, getting ready for battle. You know, they run about 50 pounds of air pressure on the inner liner, but only about 4 on the outer tires.
Well, we asked Jim Head to assess his 85 season.
Well, probably disappointment. We did pretty good in 84, and we would have liked to have done a little better in 85. It's had its ups and downs. We won a couple races, but a couple races just isn't enough.
Well, Jim Head has been racing for 16 years, but this is only the second in the Pro Funny Car division. He's going against Billy Meyer, who in 1984 won more IHRA national events than any other driver.
Billy Meyer right there was the 1980 world champion. Jim Head has not been in an IHRA final yet this year. He would really like to keep on moving up. He's qualified, of course, for the top 8 a couple of times, but Head, who is not one of the competitors who runs every single race on the IHRA trail, would really like to show his stuff here.
It'll be Oldsmobile against Ford Mustang. Head in the Oldsmobile near lane, and Billy Meyer in the Ford Mustang in the far lane. The two get staged and ready to go here in the quarterfinals at Darlington.
Head and Meyer both now did their final staging acts, and they're off. Head with lots of smoke.
Good start by Jim Head, but lots of smoke. And Billy Meyer will win the quarterfinals here at 240 miles an hour, 5.867.
So Billy Meyer, the former world champion, moves on.
Well, Marty Reed is about to get his initiation into drag racing. He's down on the line, strapped in a car to go against Roy Hill. Marty, you're going to need a real good start for this one.
No doubt about it. But I'm going to get about a 7-second head start. And I'm pre-staged. And now we're ready. And as soon as Roy brings it in, we're going to get to go. I'm going to try and cut a good light, because to beat him, I've got to really get off the line fast. And here we go. You know, this is like when I was in high school. I knew I was going to the principal's office to get spanked. I just didn't know when. Oh, mercy.
Marty, what was that flashed by you there on the left side? I think you kind of got beat. Well, better luck next time. More salutes to the 1985 major teams in IHRA. Back with more of the Strohs Nationals in just a moment. Is drag racing information and news and results from other forms of motorsports on Speed Week every Thursday night at 7:30 here on ESPN. Well, we move now to the Pro Stock Division, and our first two competitors, Billy Ewing in the near lane against Terry Adams in the far lane.
George on the left versus North Carolina on the right. Ewing on the left lane there in that Camaro black and yellow car. We've seen him turn in some aero-perfect runs earlier this season in IHRA competition.
Oh,
looks like he's done it again,
Good,
Bob.
close race, though, but Billy Ewing comes out on top with a run of 180, a 7.487, miles an hour. This was close all the way, Larry.
Yeah, it really was. Look at the reaction time on behalf of both drivers. They are even Steven coming off of that line, lift up the front end, take off down the quarter mile. Ewing won the opener back in March in Darlington when he beat Morris Johnson. And he's perfect once again, or seemingly so, all the way down the quarter mile to pick up a win.
So Billy Ewing moves into the semifinals in Pro Stock. Our next matchup will be Darrell Alderman from Moorhead, Kentucky in the far lane against Ricky Smith from King, North Carolina in the near lane.
Smith has probably had a little more success recently than Alderman, but Alderman in the last 4 races has made it all the way to the semifinals, once to the final, so he's on somewhat of a hot streak. This is only his 3rd full season in Pro Stockers.
Blasting off the line, it's a good run. They're nearly side by side coming down. It is Smith with a slight advantage, and Ricky Smith wins by, it looked like, about a car length.
Oh, it looked like Alderman really had a chance, but Ricky Smith used what appeared to be superior horsepower to pull off the win.
Look at the tremendous reaction time as the green flashes on. Both these drivers very skilled professionals. Well, Kenny Bernstein is down in the pit area thinking about his semifinal Pro Funny Car run with Dale Puldee, and Marty Reed is with him.
A lot of smiles in the Budweiser King pit. Kenny Bernstein with that 561 in the first round sets a new national record. And more importantly, KB, you're the only one who was able to run on the right lane without smoking the tires.
Well, there's a reason for that. It's Dale Armstrong, my crew chief. He's the one that makes those decisions on which lane to run, and he felt we could get down it, and he sets the car up, so that's why it worked.
More importantly also, that new record, along with Mark Oswald going out, you're now in 2nd place in the points.
Well, it does. It helps us in the Winston Championship. Obviously, it puts us from 3rd to 2nd, and in the pocketbook, that's worth $7,500.
Is there any other wonder why there's all these smiles around the Budweiser King camp?
And meanwhile, there's a lot of work going on also in the Billy Meyer pit as he's getting set in the semifinals to take on Paul Smith. But we've got more racing activity back on the drag strip as we continue with the Pro Stock Division. Our next matchup has Roy Hill, currently 5th in Winston points, against Harold Denton. Now, Denton will be in the far lane and Hill in the near lane for this quarterfinal run.
Talking about Bernstein and Kings and talking about Hill, here is the king of the hill in Pro Stockers right now, Roy Hill, cranking off a 7.3 in practice. Can he duplicate it underneath the gun of the official clock here?
Some smoke from Denton's car, and it's a win for Roy Hill, 185.56, an ET of 7.392, and Hill moves into the semifinals.
Well, he has done it, Bob. He has broken through that barrier. He's below 7.4 into the 7.3s. Look at this run. All you can say about it, you have to be as close to dead-on perfect as possible to turn in a run with that low of an ET in a Pro Stocker.
Roy Hill from Sophia, North Carolina in the budget-sponsored car moves into the semifinals, and tough luck for Harold Denton from Middlesex, North Carolina, who didn't quite make it. Bruce Allen and Tim Neighbors are ready to go now in our final run in the quarterfinal round.
Boy, Hill is really looking strong. Here's the man he's looking toward, Bruce Allen. This is the person that everybody has been trying to dethrone in 1985. That number 1, of course, is part of the legacy of the late Lee Shepherd. Lee Shepherd was national champion in this car. That's how he was able to wear that number.
Tim Neighbors is from Lawrenceville, Georgia, one of the youngest pro drivers on the circuit. As the drivers stage their cars and get set to go. Neighbors in the far lane, qualified 8th here this weekend.
The experience of this tremendously well-schooled Rear and Morrison team against now the exuberance and the courage, I guess, of Tim Neighbors.
Let's see what happens. Oh, and Allen does not move.
Neighbors is red-lighted. Neighbors had a golden opportunity, Bob, and he just jumped over the line too soon.
Well, the question is, might there have been a problem with Bruce Allen's car, and did he decide to just let Tim go and fake him out, so to speak?
Oh, what a tremendous turn of events. Tim Neighbors was right on the edge of being able to pulling off the biggest upset perhaps in the 1985 IHRA season. There sits Bruce Allen, and there Bruce Allen wins because Neighbors had jumped the gun.
Well, I think it's just a simple matter of Bruce Allen psyching out Tim Neighbors. We'll be back with more from Darlington, South Carolina. Back back at the Strohs Nationals in Darlington, South Carolina. We refer to the fact there may be a problem with Bruce Allen's car. Let's go down to Marty.
While everything is going extremely well for Roy Hill and Ricky Smith, a break for the Rear and Morrison team and Bruce Allen. This is the throwout bearing, and Dave, that looks like it's totally gone.
Yes, it has roller bearings inside it, and they froze up and welded the bearing itself to the clutch, and that made the clutch totally inoperable. So he staged it with the starter, and we were lucky the other didn't even have our motor running. The other boy redlined.
So you're still in the competition by a stroke of luck.
Yeah, that. I think just running fast, though, puts pressure on the other ones. So we're going to try to get this straightened up. One thing it did is we lost lane choice over it, but we can't complain after this much good a break.
Good luck next round.
All right.
A classic fake-out by Bruce Allen. Billy Meyer is set to go now in the semifinals, and we ask him who he'd like to race.
The guy that they have on that ladder sheet that says bye. I don't ever know what his first name is, but that's his last name, and that's always the easiest one.
Well, he's got some stiff competition in this one. No bye for Billy Meyer here. Paul Smith will be his opponent.
Yeah, Paul Smith, who went 250 miles an hour last round. Billy Meyer went 240 miles an hour. They were a little closer on their ETs, but in terms of miles per hour, Meyer surprisingly had a bit of a disadvantage against the Floridian.
Let's watch what happens here in the semifinals. Paul Smith in the near lane and Billy Meyer in the far lane. Blasting off the starting
And
line.
here comes Smith. Smith has got it. Paul Smith has won. He moves on.
A nice run, 242.58, an ET of 5.813, and Paul Smith will move into the finals here at Darlington. This could be considered an upset, Larry.
Absolutely, Bob. There's got to be a big smile inside that helmet because he will move on to the final round here, and I don't think anyone, including Mr. Smith, would have expected that. But look at this consistent run down the quarter mile.
38-year-old Paul Smith from Boynton Beach, Florida, into the finals in Pro Funny Cars. Well, Roy Hill is down in the pit area with our Marty Reed.
What about the car? You had to make a clutch change this morning before first round.
Well, we went out last night, and the last two runs we made, I thought the car was spinning in third gear, but what was actually happening, the clutch was slipping. So we went out this morning and run you, and I just burnt the clutch right out of it. So it was just like a little blessing from upstairs for that to happen. We put a new clutch in and went out and run a 36 this morning, and you could just feel the difference all the way down the track. And in the first round, we run a 39, and there's more in it yet.
Harold Denton was his opponent in that previous round, and Roy Hill had a 7.392. Now Kenny Bernstein is getting set in the Budweiser King. His opponent here in the semifinals will be Dale Boldy, fifth fastest qualifier here this weekend.
This is the classic matchup. The two biggest winners in drag racing in 1985 pitted against one another.
Kenny Bernstein getting that Budweiser King stage. Dale Boldy is already ready. Let's see how this goes.
They're all together. Oh, side by side, Bernstein begins to get the advantage, and he lengthens it as they get to the finish line.
Bernstein with a 256.41. That is an ET of 5.597, and Kenny Bernstein will move into the finals against Paul Smith.
Boy, he just keeps inching downward, turning another 5.5, 5.5, 5.6s. That's what Bernstein continues to record.
Kenny Bernstein, here is a replay of the start. They went off the line right together, but as they came down, Kenny began to inch away and beat Boldy. Well, the crew chief on the Kenny Bernstein car is a former driver, Dale Armstrong, and Marty Reed is with him.
In 1957, a young man by the name of Dale Armstrong began driving race cars at drag strips all around the country. He did that until 1981 when he hung up the driver's seat and turned to turning the wrenches for Kenny Bernstein's Budweiser King. And since then, you have won several championships, several big races, and the wins just keep piling up.
Well, this year we've really had a good year. Last year and the year before were mediocre. We finished up third, I think, both years. The first year I was with Kenny, we were real fortunate, I think it was. We finished fourth, and we were fortunate to do that well because we had a real disastrous start. first 5 races we went to, we couldn't even qualify. We're trying to get our acts together between the two of us.
How hard was it for you to give up the driver's seat and take over as crew chief?
I was fortunate enough to have won a few championships myself and set some records, and so it wasn't as though I had chased something all my life and didn't achieve something, and when it came time to step down, I found it quite easy to do.
Let's look back over your career. When you started back in '57, how much has the sport changed since then?
Oh, it's changed a whole bunch. I started in Canada, and I had a old 36 Ford Coupe that at our local drag strip, the slowest time that the clocks recorded was 60 miles an hour. And I think it took me about the first 6 or 7 months of running 58 and 59 miles an hour without getting a time slip until I finally broke 60 miles an hour, and that was one big step for me at the time.
Did you ever think that you'd be breaking speeds at 260?
Boy, not back then, we sure didn't. I mean, 100 miles an hour back then was phenomenal.
I'll tell you one thing, when it comes to that breaking point when 270 is reached, don't be surprised if it isn't a car tuned by this man right here. Thanks for talking with us.
Thank you.
Dale Armstrong, who's the crew chief on the Budweiser King. Back with more at Darlington at the Strohs Nationals. We are back with the semifinals in the Pro Stock Division. This first round will have Bruce Allen in the far lane against Billy Ewing in the near lane. Billy Ewing has won once this year in IHRA. Bruce Allen, on the other hand, has 3 victories, and they all came in a row.
Billy Ewing, who used to be called Bad Billy Ewing, things have certainly changed. Remember, he went slower in terms of miles per hour than his opponent, Terry Adams, in the last round.
Both off the line together. Here they come.
Ewing's got a chance. Can he hold on? Here comes Allen. No, it's Allen.
Boy, it was a close race, though. Allen with a 185.9, 7.448. This was a tremendously close race. Ewing's ET is a 7.512. Let's watch it again.
Bruce Allen just continues to pound on his opponents. 185, almost 186 miles an hour, a 7.448 ET. Billy Ewing had gone 7.487 the last round, so had he been able to duplicate that, he would have been close, but still, it wouldn't have been enough.
So Bruce Allen is in the finals. His opponent will be either Roy Hill or Ricky Smith. They will be doing battle here in just a moment as they get set to go. Roy Hill in the near lane and Ricky Smith in the far lane.
A couple of the real speed merchants in drag racing. Both of these guys are capable of almost anything in terms of ETs or miles per hour.
We asked Bill Smith, the crew chief on the Hill car, what he likes about his driver, Roy Hill.
Well, his reflex has always been real good. He stays real calm in the car all the time. And he's drove so long that he knows what to do in the car and just makes a good run about every time he goes out if the car doesn't do something stupid.
Well, he's looking for a good run here this afternoon against Ricky Smith. They call him the Hillbilly. He's in the budget rent-a-car Mercury Topaz. His opponent, Ricky Smith, will be in the Motorcraft Ford Thunderbird.
Ricky, the 3rd fastest qualifier. You see the black diagonal stripe through the number. That, of course, is in deference to the late Lee Shepard. Ricky Smith, the 1982 world champion, but 4 times he has been runner-up. So it gives you an idea. A solid contender for quite a number of years now.
Ricky won the U.S. Open Nationals earlier this year in Rockingham. And Roy Hill, meanwhile, is looking for his first victory of 1985. Semifinals, Pro Stock Division, Hill and Smith. Let's watch it.
Not enough. No red lights. It's a race to the finish.
Side by side, and looked like Ricky Smith may have, no, Roy Hill pulls it out, a 7.428, 183.29. It looked as if Smith may have had the advantage when they crossed the line, but Roy Hill defeats him.
Roy Hill with his 7.4. Ricky Smith goes 7.4 also, but it reads out to 7.463. A little better ET on Hill's time, but less miles per hour. Ricky Smith goes over 186 miles per hour. He turns in a 7.4. That's not enough.
Boy, you lose at 186 miles an hour? That's not fair.
Absolutely right. Well, Roy Smith is having one of his better weekends.
Now, Marty Reed has made his way to the end of the drag strip to talk with the winner, Roy Hill.
This is one of those races where you needed three hands, Roy Hill. The door was coming off.
Yeah, it was. We got in high gear, and I seen it come open with me, and I grabbed high gear and grabbed the door at the same time, and just luckily the door stayed on. This pin right here that holds the door broke, and I'm just very lucky. Maybe some of it's all this bad luck I've been having. Maybe some of it's good here today.
I'm also smelling an awful lot of clutch.
Yeah, we burnt the clutch up, too. I pulled high gear a little early, and this motor's putting out enough power, it's just eating the clutches up.
So Roy Hill goes into the finals against Bruce Allen, and we'll be back in the Sportsman division in just a moment as we present the Strohs Nationals. When you line up against someone at the line, he becomes an opponent. But when there is injury or death involved, the entire drag racing community comes together. The drivers and wives are having a bake sale here today for the family of Don Young, who was killed recently in a drag racing accident. We move on now to the Sportsman division, and the stock finals has Kenneth Durrell against Billy Lawrence.
Well, this is South Carolina. Durrell against Lawrence from North Carolina. These are showroom available, assembly line cars. People just decide, hey, they want to go drag racing.
It's pretty much just like bringing your car directly from the highway and putting it on the drag strip.
Oh, Durrell has red lighted to come all this distance, get to the finals of your class, and he red lighted. So this is going to be an automatic win for Lawrence.
Billy Lawrence gets the win. Moving on down to the hot rod final, it'll be Danny Carr in the near lane against Hazel Pilcher.
Hazel as in lady. Hazel from Chancellor, Alabama. This is a 10.90 breakout class. In other words, you can't go faster than that in the hot rods.
And it looks as if Danny Carr in the near lane is the winner of that. Let's take another look at it as Carr beat Pilcher coming down toward the line.
You see just the very end of the run, but the run really was over at the beginning. His reaction time was about 0.02 of a second.
Super Rod final has David Rampy in the near lane and David Simmons in the far lane.
Rampy, of course, the veteran of many, many national championships. 9.90 on the breakout. Looks like Rampy is going to win once again. He's won so many times. Rampy turns in a 9.8. They've both gone over the breakout speed. Both of them have gone over, but Rampy has gone well under, so Simmons gets the win.
Super stock final, Mark Young in the near lane against Ronnie Skinner in the far lane.
North Carolina Skinner against North Carolina Young.
And it is Mark Young, the winner with a 110.42 miles an hour. Now in the quick rod final, in the near lane, it's Steve Buckner. Right lane, Steve Grady, and Grady red light.
Obviously, a couple of different types of classes are available to run in this type of racing, but Grady's red light is going to hand this win to Deep Buckner. Deep's a guy who's been around drag racing for quite a number of years.
We'll see how the red light occurred, and there it is in the far lane. So Steve Grady is defeated by Deep Buckner. Well, over in the pro stock division pits, there is a clutch change going on with the Roy Hill car, and Marty Reed is down in the pit area with Bruce Allen, his opponent.
Something very strange for a world champion to be experiencing 2 rounds in a row where you're not going to have lane choice. He ran a 42, you've got a 44.
Yeah, we were just happy to run a 44 in that lane, so we'll just have to go beat him in the slower of the 2 lanes. You never know what they'll be. Every round they change, so it's hard to tell how the lanes really end up. So we'll just see.
But the clutch held up real well this time.
Yeah, I didn't have any problem. That car worked fine. Just didn't make quite as good a run as yesterday when we went 40. So I think we'll be all right.
Good luck.
Thank you.
And there's also work being done in the Paul Smith pit as he gets set to go against a very formidable opponent in the Pro Funny Car finals in just a moment. Kenny Bernstein.
Boy, those must be anxious moments knowing you're going up against the king. I tell you again, that's an appropriate nickname for him.
All right, back to the Sportsman. The modified final has Fred White in the far lane against Gene Fulton in the near lane.
Now, this is another class where handicaps are dialed in. These cars are designed specifically for drag racing. Purebred racers here, but you've got to be careful. You can't exceed the goals that you set for yourself.
Couple of Corvettes going at it.
We have seen 165-mile-an-hour speeds here.
And the winner is Fred White. Now moving on to the top sportsman final, it's Charles Carpenter in the near lane in a 55 Chevy against Tommy Mooney.
Well, he's had a better ET than Mooney in some of the runs leading up to the finals here. Let's see how this 55 Chevy does against the better Mooney.
Looks like Mooney may have the win here. They cross the line, and yes, Tommy Mooney wins the top sportsman division with a 157.61. Well, looks like the Kenny Bernstein crew is doing some relaxing here before the finals. They have a football, and they're kicking it around. We'll be right back. It'll be Bruce Allen against Roy Hill. Now, Bruce Allen, a former modified competitor in Pro Stock this year. His opponent is Roy Hill, who will be in the near lane. And the Hill family has a little bit of association with the Petty family. They're both from the same area of North Carolina.
Hill has got to be the sentimental favorite. Oh, they're both staging very carefully. Engine rev.
Here we go.
No red lights.
Looks like Bruce Allen with the advantage.
Hill's hanging in there.
Yes, it's Bruce Allen winning the Strohs Nationals with a 186.33, an ET of 7.458.
Bruce Allen has done it again this day. It's worth $20,000 thanks to the courtesy of Buyers GMC, who has put up not only a little extra money for this purse, but also the use of a tow truck for one full season.
Let's go down to Marty Reed.
Bruce, a 745, proved that the World Championship may have been locked up, but you still wanted to win today.
I wanted to win today real bad. Need to go out on a good note. Buddy and Dave sure deserve a win here. We ran real good last week, and I let them down a little bit, so I wanted to get back here. Real happy about that.
Congratulations on a great season. I know you're going to be back next year, and all of us at ESPN are looking forward to it.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. Believe me, I've been having a good time.
And our congratulations to Bruce Allen. Now, the Pro Funny Car Finals, and it's Kenny Bernstein going up against Paul Smith. Kenny with one win this year in IHRA. This is only Paul Smith's fourth event of 1985.
Yeah, Bernstein has just moved from Dallas to California. As a matter of fact, he lives right across the Ocean Bay from Santa Catalina, which I think the Four Preps sang about one time, Bob.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Now, this has to be a Kenny Bernstein favorite here, but Paul Smith has had a great weekend and will be trying to dethrone the king, so to speak.
You got to say, David, in the person of Paul Smith versus Goliath, Kenny Bernstein. Is Bernstein going to win this one easily? Boy, it sure looks like it right now.
He does. Kenny Bernstein wins with a 257.87, 5.58. And there's a celebration by his crew. Kenny Bernstein brings home his second championship of the year in IHRA.
Bernstein has been the biggest money winner in two separate leagues of drag racing in 1985 from time to time, and he'll be making a threat for it here in IHRA, although I don't think he can catch Paul D. There's Bernstein coming off the line pretty equally, but down at the finish line, it's Bernstein by, well, did you say a mile?
Yeah, it's a pretty healthy victory there for Kenny, but Paul Smith with a tremendous weekend. Well, let's go to Marty Reed, who is with the winner in Pro Funny Cars.
I got to tell you something. Another 558, 257 miles an hour.
Oh, boy, I tell you, that's super way to end it up. Hats off to Paul Smith. Hit a job. But my crew again, Dale Armstrong, the guys have just performed all year long, and today's no exception. And, of course, Budweiser and Motorcraft and Ford and Kangaroo Shoes. If we didn't have all them and our friends, it couldn't happen. And ESPN, buddy, I think we like this station.
I got to tell you something. I didn't think you'd try and pedal it that hard because he was so far behind. He was a good 2.5 tenths. I thought you backed off a little.
Well, you know, we've been in this situation often this year. Luckily, it's been a nice position to be in where we've been way ahead, and we've approached it different ways. And Dale said, well, we don't want to give it away, but we're not going to take much out of it. We took a taste out of it, but the air got a little cooler, and it actually got better. So, you know, that's the way it goes.
Well, congratulations.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it. You bet. Okay, way to go, guys. All right.
Bruce Allen wins the Pro Stock Division, and Kenny Bernstein is the champion in Pro Funny Cars. We'll be back to take a look at the Jet Cars and have some closing comments in a moment. spectacular displays in all of drag racing when they bring out the jet cars. Right now, Dick Rosberg in the near lane set to go against Billy McDaniel.
Well, all this right now is a little bit for show, some of the on-burnt fuel being spectacularly sprayed out the back, but a little bit slow off the line when they actually turn them loose. But boy, do they pick up horsepower and speed and miles per hour at the top end.
If you've ever ridden on a jet airplane, you might have some idea of exactly the amount of thrust and power behind these cars.
You know, astronauts have a slogan about just before they lift off, they call it lighting this candle. Well, this is truly lighting these Roman candles. Look at that power.
Dick Rosberg, an easy winner.
Chute not open up all the way. Might be a dangerous moment right here. You need those chutes, obviously, more often than not in these jet-powered cars, these high-powered cars, but enough runoff area here, and I think we're in good shape.
Daniel gets it slowed down okay. A real spectacle, the jet cars, a part of IHRA drag racing. Well, back to our winners in Pro Funny Car and the Pro Stock Division. Kenny Bernstein was really, as he has been several times this year, is very good.
He really was, Bob, and it seems like every time out now he's nudging more and more at that elapsed time record. 1/10 of a second, 1/2 of a tenth of a second, and these are major jumps for drag racing when you're running down the strip at well under 10 seconds per attempt. Bernstein, King may be a very appropriate name for this team.
Closing comments now from Marty Reed, who's been diligently working the pit area for us this afternoon. Marty?
A tip of the hat to all our winners today. Bruce Allen for not only winning today's race, but the World Championship. Dale Pulte on his World Championship. And Kenny Bernstein for again winning on the IHRA circuit. A moment for us to thank all the drivers and crews for allowing us to bring our cameras inside the pits to take you a little closer to all the action. It's been fun for us, and we look forward to next season. See you then.
Thank you, Marty, for your help this afternoon. You know, the speed of the funny cars continues to increase, and we're near the 270-mile-an-hour barrier.
Yeah, Bob, and it looks like for the first time in drag racing history, we will end the season with the funny cars, yes, even better than the top fuelers, with the highest mile-per-hour mark, 266 miles per hour set earlier this year. It's been a tremendous season of speed.
In the Pro Stock Division this afternoon, good competition from Roy Hill, but Bruce Allen was the winner.
He really did. He won today, not only today, but all season long. Bruce, I think, has effectively picked up the gauntlet laid down to him by the late and very great Lee Shipper.
That'll do it from Darlington, South Carolina, where we presented the Strohs Nationals, brought to you by Strohs and Stroh-Lite Fire Brewed for smoother taste. And by Drag Review, all you need to know about drag racing. For Marty Reed and Larry Newber, this is Bob Jenkins. Thanks for joining us. For now, so long, everyone.